I think I've got it figured out. It's smarter than I am. I think I've got to flip it around. Oh no, it's smarter than I am. Can you help me? How do you flip it around? Well, that ain't it. That ain't it.
I thought there was like supposed to be a little twist.
Yeah, well, how about if I just do this and we can kind of pretend I know what I'm doing with it, right? All right, and I'd like it to do both of us if at all possible. Can you kind of see us in that?
Hold on, I'll help you adjust it. Hold on.
Okay.
I feel like I'm being put on the spot
no.
right now.
Oh no, gotta go through a bunch of stuff.
Good thing I ordered a double.
We can do this. Now I gotta get my ink pen. I actually did not too bad for
Yeah,
an old
am
guy.
I safe here? Am I
Yeah.
getting myself into a wormhole?
No.
You're
It's
not-
just Rick.
It's just Rick.
You're not.
I'm
You
never-
need this to stick under the back of the.
I knew something unusual was coming
like
today.
this right here. Will that help?
Like he's done this before.
Apparently.
He don't know how to flip the camera around, but he knows how
Yeah,
to
we
do
were
it.
trying to flip it so we could do it, but I haven't figured that
There.
out. I'm
I
not-
can see both
Oh,
of you.
wonderful.
Now you want me to...
Immigration being the big issue that it is today.
Okay.
Can you pass the immigration quiz that we expect of those wishing to be American citizens?
I hope so.
You'll do better than you think. I can assure you, you will.
Okay.
For one thing, you were looking at a book.
Yeah. True.
That's
true,
more than a
true.
lot of people do. So I'll pose a couple of questions that are on the M400, but I will kind of group them. And the way that it works is you give them 100 questions to study. They select 25. You got to get a despicable 60%.
Okay.
You'll do better than that. But I don't keep score of it, and really I don't care what the number is.
Okay.
President, vice president. Who's third in succession? Name and title.
Third in succession in our country.
Yeah, somebody jumps up, shoots the president. Wait, we've already seen that. And then the vice president, who takes the place.
Okay. Gosh. Is it the chief of staff? No, it'd be
The Secretary of State is in the order of, but not third.
Okay.
The three down
Okay.
here.
I honestly
Speaker
really okay. The Speaker of the House.
and the name?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm gonna fail this quiz.
No, Mike Johnson.
Okay.
And the only way you can fail it is if I don't give the answers.
Okay.
Okay, now, Abraham Lincoln, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King. What do they have in common?
They fought for civil rights.
You just got 3 correct.
Good.
How many seats in the Senate?
The Senate. Okay. I believe there are 50 in the Senate, and then
And how come?
for each state.
2 per state. Yeah.
Okay.
How about House of Representatives? I've only had a few people jump in with this one.
I don't. Is it twice that many?
It's based on population.
Okay. It's purple.
It's actually 435
Okay.
is what it is. And that's why you see 218 is required for a majority vote in the House.
Okay.
If you follow that at all. What are their term of service? How long do they term?
Oh, I believe it's 4 years.
For which office?
For Senate. Is it the House?
Actually, it's neither.
Neither. Oh no. See. See, I failed this. This
The
is
4
horrible.
years would be for the president.
My sister-in-law is gonna kick my butt.
The president
Okay.
and governors.
Okay.
Those are all typically 4 years.
Okay.
The thought is it gives enough time for things to happen.
Okay.
But if something terrible happens, we can survive it as a nation.
We would hope. Yeah.
Well, it's tough sometimes, and I will give it that. However, the Senate is for 6 years, and the House is for 2. This is something that I correlate back to the Magna Carta, in as much as House of Lords, House of Commons.
Okay.
You see, it's figured that 2 years of service in the House, you can adjust. Things will happen. It takes, we're testing these people for further office, if
Okay.
it will. And then 6 is where they can actually work on doing things like filling the judge's positions.
Okay, yeah, moving into the judicial
more
Supreme Courts.
typically are given that, and then it's staggered in our Constitution. It's staggered 1/3. Is the House or the Senate will never change more than 1/3 of its people in its term of election. Whew.
That's a lot.
Okay, why did we go to war with England?
Over taxes.
Taxation without representation.
Exactly. We had no voice.
Would we ever do that?
It's happening.
Okay, well, we've got everybody in the state has a representative, right?
That's what they say.
How many territories are there?
Territories within our country?
How many territories?
Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't actually know the answer to that. I know there's probably, I can think of it,
Name 2.
Puerto Rico.
Excellent.
And then I'm so nervous right
Don't
now.
be. And really, now that you've mentioned that, let me share a thought with you. I dropped out of school, 9th grade, before Department of Education.
Okay.
I postulate that the Department of Education puts us in a position where we feel stupid if we don't know the answer. When I was in school, we knew we didn't know the answer, but we are also willing to learn, and it was presented in a way that made you want to learn.
Yeah, I would agree. with
Okay, so with that thought in mind, please don't be nervous. No, that's not my intent here at all. It's not to put anybody on the spot, just to bring awareness and highlight our educational deficiency, and more important, the adverse effect it has on our society today.
Well, I would
Now,
agree
to
with that.
finish the territories, Guam, Northern Marianas,
Okay.
Samoa, Puerto Rico, American Virgin Islands.
The
Those are the
Virgins, that was
5
the
that
other
are
one I was-
occupied.
Okay.
Now there are several unoccupied, and most of them were served with a military purpose.
Interesting.
Midway, that's a territory.
Okay.
Wake, that's a territory. Okay?
Okay.
Johnston Island, where we did high altitude testing of nuclear devices and blew one up that actually turned off the lights in Hawaii. That was kind of a big deal when we found out this is dangerous stuff. And that was just, most people never even knew what was there. But I was on the island from 1986, Chernobyl, till the fall of the Berlin Wall. And what we did there was fulfill a congressional act to destroy the nerve gas and the chemical agents that was developed for World War II. But it had to be done in place.
Yeah.
And we also worked with the Russians to destroy their product based on our science. And this was at the time when Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. And in the joint verification of nuclear disarmament, representatives from that island went as participation of it. And that's probably my biggest pride for military service
Yeah.
as a civilian.
Yeah.
Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Goosebumps
A
all over.
participant in our world.
Yeah.
And I got highly educated, not really, you know. So it's something that anybody can give back to their country.
Yeah.
And now I'll talk about President Kennedy asked not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We are our country.
We are.
So,
believe
next N400 question.
Okay.
What are the first 3 words of our Constitution? And
Oh my
what do
gosh.
they mean?
Is it Oh my gosh. I knew.
You're there.
It's
You're
the
there.
preemptive.
You're there. You got it.
Is it
We.
we the people?
And what does it mean?
It means we the people.
Self-governance.
Yes.
We, the people,
I
in
know.
pursuit of a more perfect union.
Establish justice.
We
and
are,
ensure.
we are now given our government permission to exist.
Mm-hmm.
That's what separates us from others. Most republics
true.
only last 17 years. Ours has gone 250. That means we might be doing something right.
Well, we,
Now, we've established that Senate, House, and why we went to war with England. Would we tax our territory?
well, we shouldn't if they don't get representation.
We don't tax them. They pay a tax for their own governance,
Okay.
but we as a federal do not tax them. Okay, not far from here are four faces
No.
on a big rock. Mm-hmm. Who are they?
George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and
Little
Roosevelt.
Nepotism,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because who funded it?
Oh, that one. I don't know the answer to that actually. Who funded it? The government.
Yeah, but who was the president?
Oh, Roosevelt?
Yes, it was, yeah, during the Depression and World War II.
Yeah, it was supposed to give people jobs.
Yes,
supposed to create
absolutely, and
economy.
it did a great job with it until, they bombed Pearl Harbor. But yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did these four faces on this big rock do? You get the point up there, get up there.
Well, they're supposed to be some of our founding fathers, but, well, George and Thomas. And then Abe taught civil rights, which I'm all for. And then Roosevelt, well, I guess maybe it's because he funded it.
No, it's a different, it's a different Roosevelt.
No. Oh, different Roosevelt. Okay. Anyways, no. Oh, well, I guess he expanded our country into the territories, right? Isn't that what he
Not
did?
quite. Not
Okay.
quite. What he did do is develop the national parks.
Oh, the national parks, yes. Okay.
And it was a conservationist.
Okay.
And the thing that I think people overlook, aside from, cousin, nephew, cousin, whatever, for Theodore Roosevelt and
Teddy and
Franklin Delano, you've got to give Teddy a lot of credit. I mean, first of all, he was chief of police in New York,
No.
governor.
He exhibited servant leadership. He really did.
He did so much, but not necessarily something that says, jump up and look at me, this is what I did, as much as he went to work each day, did his job, and then kept trying to do more and better.
I feel like that's what a leader of our country should be.
It is, and also that was part of the sermon in church that we had today was, that Christianity doesn't need a show-off, it just needs you to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need much more than that. And then, of course, I did Daniel and Paul and Joseph, through all of that. But, the real message is we can do this. There's nothing stopping us. In 1803, we bought a country, or bought land. What was it and from whom?
The Louisiana Territory, and it was from the French, I
Yes,
believe.
it was. You're doing great. A lot better than you think, really. But mostly what we just need to do is just bring attention that we've forgotten it. And
We
it is-
have.
it is important.
It is important. yeah.
Okay. Of the First Amendment, 5 parts, name 2.
First Amendment is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of...
You've named 2. You've already passed. But
Okay.
yeah, keep going. I love hearing it.
Oh, I guess...
I'd like to tell a little story with this that kind of helps reinforce it.
Okay.
James had a newspaper called The Current in Boston, Massachusetts prior to the 1776. He was incarcerated for speaking out against the crown.
Yeah.
Well, upon his release, they said, yeah, we don't like it, but you can't print your thoughts, but you can print the thoughts of others. So these letters started showing up under the door from a crotchety old woman. They're upset with the government telling their king should kiss our collective voices. Well, it turned out to be his younger 16-year-old brother, and these became known as the Silence Do-Good letters, and why Benjamin Franklin was so adamant about freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and most importantly, the right to petition your government for grievances. It was also determined that this was so important that the original Second Amendment was discarded and replaced by, to maintain a well-regulated militia, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. Now, when I put my hand in the air to die defending what the officers and whatever are merely asked to uphold, that oath was to the president and those officers placed in positions of authority over me. Okay? The National Guard is to the governor. The checks and balance allows for
That's why California could
states
do what they were doing.
to band together and overthrow an out-of-control government.
Absolutely.
Have we ever seen that before in the 1800s?
Have we? In the United States? What? It's not something they teach you in schools. When did this happen? Oh, the Civil War.
Civil War.
The Civil War, of course.
You do not
Duh.
want to be a cop during that time.
Yeah.
Now, the states
It's not
disappearance,
presented that way.
and it turned into a military disagreement.
Yeah.
Now, it was curtailed through military force, but it was also for a cause. Now, a political party came into being in 1858 with the intent to stop the spread of slavery into the Louisiana Purchase. What is the name of that political
I
party?
do know this.
2 years later, gave us the first president in that party.
I guess it must have been the Democrats.
Democrats been with us
Okay, so
since
then
the
was
beginning.
it? I know the name of this, but I cannot think of it. You're gonna have to tell me.
Republican.
It was Republican. So really,
Abraham Lincoln
Really?
was the first Republican president,
Really?
giving us the Emancipation Proclamation.
no, I am definitely undereducated from high school.
It is.
Sorry
it
if
is
you're watching
something.
this and you taught
It
me.
is something that we.
I
we
did not
miss.
realize that.
Yeah.
But isn't division like the opposite of what we really want?
What? I'm sorry. Say again.
Division, democracy, Republican. There's such
No.
this like great divide now.
Now, here's the thing that I do. I try to. When we started, I said I will talk about, but I will not talk about the current leader or the predecessor.
Okay.
I will discuss the policy.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the policy at that time with Abraham Lincoln and what have you, the other party was consisted of the Ku Klux Klan and the Southern Democrats trying to, and yet today the argument is party of tolerance. And then
Yeah.
again, I see BLM, the Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter stuff, and the anti-First Amendment movement, the Antifa that's going
Yeah.
on out there. This
not-
is a
yeah.
violent thing, and our government was really designed to curtail the violence
Mm-hmm.
that happens. And that's it. Okay, we've actually gone through a good portion. I have more. I can keep going. But I do pose one question now that is worth money in your pocket. From a 1906 8th grade textbook from Roscoe, Montana.
Oh, Roscoe. I lived very close to Roscoe for a while.
So
Okay.
did I. My greats homesteaded in Roscoe.
I lived in Luther for 6
where?
years. Luther.
In Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Very
in
close to Roscoe.
Red Lodge.
Yeah.
Only private indoor swimming pool in the county.
I've been in that house.
Yes, you have, I'm pretty sure, and I bet alcohol was involved to boot.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, with a fifth if necessary. Right? Plenty of fifths right here behind the bar.
small world.
Ready
My
for the
family and I
question.
lived in. Yep, let's lay it on me.
List the Bill of Rights.
Oh shit.
No, that ain't one of them.
I know. Oh my gosh. You know what? The Bill of Rights. I did know it because it was a cartoon back in my day. Rights.
You've already got the first and the second.
Yeah.
We've already given you that.
Freedom of speech.
That's the
and
first. We've already been through that.
Freedom to bear arms. You already said that. Freedom of press. Maybe you said that too. Oh my gosh. Freedom to. I don't know.
You
I don't know the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, well, you're
I should
not
probably
alone. And
refresh
please
myself.
don't be disturbed by
I
that
used
fact.
to know the Bill of Rights.
Well, the way I present it actually is, and I don't mean to necessarily slap cops. I just spoke to a sheriff from LA, and I commiserated with him because of the high degree of tolerance that he has to put up with while attempting to fulfill his promise to enforce law.
Yeah.
And he says it's so difficult. He wants to change to another department. In fact, he's made out. And I'm sure that the department he wants to go to has no openings, because they actually believe in the constitutions. But the way I present it and the way that the law enforcement officers should view it is starting with the 10th Amendment. Anything that is not expressly allowed or prohibited in this document is the obligation and responsibility of the states. Ratified December 10th, 1791, 4th U.S. Congress, President George in office. That means 10 followed 9, 8, 7. The legal term is predicate, meaning judicial precedence. That means you need to pay attention to the God-given inalienable rights that were granted us before you were given permission to exist. No state law, state policy, city council decision can supersede to subjugate our God-given and alienable rights. Ninth, those so enumerated shall not be disparaged against presumption of innocence. And also, visiting the journals in Philadelphia, you'll find much discussion prohibiting calling your political opponent a threat to democracy, and though I paraphrase, those that voted for him Nazis. Eighth is cruel and unusual punishment. That's use of a badge as both a sword and a shield, and use of your handcuffs to demean your victim and inflate your ego. Should that
Interesting.
occur, the 7th Amendment allows for adjudication for damages, which now takes you to Article 6, Section 4 of the Constitution, which gives further support to Article 3 and Supreme Court decisions, as well as introducing the teeth and substance United States Code, Code of Federal Regulations, and in harmony with Article 2, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which now takes us to a 42 U.S.C. 1983, which removes your qualified immunity applying to anybody in office, turning off your body camera and speaking with your partner to subjugate the Bill of Rights, already with some other law, is a 42 U.S.C. 1985, which is conspiracy to deprive, which takes us now to the prosecution part of it, which is an 18 U.S.C. 242, which comes with 1 year in a federal prison, though you'll never serve that because that would be a death sentence for those. Instead, it is an unlimited monetary penalty. And yes, the officer can be made to pay that under punitive damages. This is also the same law that President Nixon faced when he was replaced by Gerald R. Ford for planting a bug in the Watergate Hotel, violation of the Fourth Amendment. secure person, property, residence, and papers.
Comes full circle.
What's that?
It comes full circle, doesn't it?
It does.
It
And
does.
then now we've done one, two, 4, and now third is housing soldiers in homes. Also, the Supreme Court has pointed out that arresting a person on the curtilage, that's the sidewalk or the porch of their home without a warrant, is the same as kicking in the door
And getting that.
and doing that there.
Yeah.
That is their property. And then, of course, fifth is no U.S. citizen shall be compelled to provide evidence against themselves. Though you have the right to remain silent, according to a 1968 Supreme Court ruling, the officer has freedom of speech, which means he can put the bill of his cap to your forehead, spit in your face, threaten you with violence, threaten you with curtailing your freedom of movement, and even threaten to kill you, and you are detained, so there's nothing you can do. Isn't that fun?
That's actually awful.
1992 Supreme Court ruling, these are both liberal, states that the officer is allowed to trick, lie, manipulate, otherwise it's too difficult to do his job. My counter to that is, though legal, what are you going to say about bearing false witness against your fellow man when you're standing at the pearly gates?
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
And of course,
It's wild.
2004, a conservative Supreme Court states once you've been Mirandized, all questions stop without a lawyer present. So then
Make
what
sure
you
you
do
ask,
is
right?
you take them to the Sixth Amendment, which is a fair and speedy trial, right to face your accuser, and a lawyer. Now, in their pocket, they must read a card that gives the Miranda right.
Yeah, of course.
Now, do it back to them and inform them that if they violate anything, they no longer have qualified immunity and they will be federally prosecuted under the aforementioned statutes, as well as without qualified immunity. A cuff and stuff is kidnap or restricting freedom of movement, assault and battery, and once the wheels turn,
Kidnapping. Absolutely. Boy, that's.
So
I'm a
this-
nurse. That
this
sounds
is-
like familiar terminology there.
This is where they stand. Now, we've gone full circle on it. They've been Mirandized. And all from the moment you start this, you tell them you're detained while I redress my government for grievances. If they leave, that's an 18 U.S.C. 241 refusal of services. And I think there's also other sub-provisions that fall within.
I'm sure.
So we've ran through the Bill of Rights. You lost the
Goes deep.
$20. Sorry,
I
can't
know,
give it
that's
to
okay.
you. But you want to know how much money I've given away? None.
I know. I was like,
I do want to thank you, though. It has indeed been a pleasure. And you'll notice there's one thing I did not do. Ask your name.
you don't know nothing about me.
I don't have to. That was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.